Yeah, I'm pretty amazed at what I just watched. We've just had an autumn statement that raised the tax burden in this country to the highest since the Second World War. We just had an autumn statement that raised corporation tax on many small and medium-sized firms too, the firms that generate the growth and jobs that run the British economy. And it's gone up from 19% to 25%.
Yeah.
You know, taking 6% off the margins of small and medium-sized enterprises. There are some exemptions that have been hammered during lockdown. And I'm amazed that not in the speech or from any of the journalist questions, no one asked about why are you raising taxes so much when the economy is already in recession and you're going to drive the economy even more into recession, which will make the fiscal situation even worse. It's the most basic question in economics, and they're wanging on about Europe and innovation.
This is the thing. We had two questions there. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, you watch GB News, because we watch these sorts of occasions with a very different ear and a very different eye, because we had the BBC there asking, you know, business here want looser immigration rules and we want to go back in the EU. And ITV had a similar question. We're all sitting here going, that's not what's concerning us. Is it, Joe? What were you thinking when you were watching that?
Well, I don't like him. Anyway, I'm sorry. I just
don't apologise. You're here for your opinion.
He's too connected to the WEF for my liking. And I just think all this innovation he's talking about is they're pushing us towards a digital ID, and you can tell what he's saying.
It's not really hiding in plain sight anymore. And just to explain what I think, what you mean, Joe, when you say that is he's connected to the WEF, it's the idea that there is a globalist movement, of which Rishi Sunak is no doubt in lockstep with a lot of people who have ambitions to make us one big planet with one big government and potentially one big army. I don't know where it ends really. And the idea that technology is going to make take such a big place in our life that it will control us. Layla, that's kind of how we're feeling.
It's so frightening, but to be completely honest with you, Beverly, I absolutely detest the man. So whenever he comes on, I either switch off, and I know it's really bad practice, but I switch off the TV or I just completely switch off because I just can't bear his policies, what he stands for. He's just not my cup of tea. So I try really not to engage in it because it does make me really angry. And there's not much that I feel that I can do about this. That's the most frustrating thing.
You're so right. That's the problem, Liam, isn't it? Because you mentioned greengrocers there, how important greengrocers are. Well, how is your obsession with artificial intelligence and technology going to help the average
What does he even know about the common man? This is what what does he know about the common man out there that's just trying to make it?
This is a shame, I think, for Rishi Sunak and for the country, because I do think, you know, he's got the makings of being a decent Prime Minister. I do think his story is a pretty incredible story. He's not from huge amounts of money. Obviously, he's massively wealthy now. But it is a sort of, you know, a British dream story. His parents came here, they worked hard, they sent their kids to a great school. And he's obviously a very, very bright guy. So I had...
But he's weak.
Yeah, I had high hopes for him. But I'm really disappointed that he seems to have just imbibed this kind of, you know, orthodox view of how we run things, particularly how we run the economy. Now, certain people will be screaming at the television saying, oh, but the mini-budget crashed and burned and all the rest of it. Look, Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng are being vilified for policies that were more right than wrong. Yes, the bond market went nuts. In my view, that was more to do with what the Bank of England was doing at the time, and the fact that the presentation and timing of their policies was all wrong, and they didn't explain them, and they should have included the Office for Budget Responsibility and all the rest of it. But the lesson from Truss and Kwarteng is to take the markets with you and explain what you're doing and maybe go more steadily rather than trying to upend everything at once. The lesson isn't to junk the whole idea of economic growth, to raise the tax burden so high that many, squeezed middle of ordinary families now are worried, even more worried than they were this time last week about making ends meet.
According to Rishi Sunak, it's all going to be fine because we're going to spend billions on innovation and technology and artificial intelligence. Do you know what that means to you? It does seem otherworldly. It's completely unconnected. Right, get in touch with, tell me what you think, won't you? GBViews at gbnews.uk.